Hey guys, it's Angel and welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at JustFlight's Piper PA-28 Warrior 2. Now, hoping this means that we'll see more aircraft from this line, including things like the Turbo Dakota and the Archers, two of my personal favourites, maybe even a Saratoga, who knows. Now, this of course is a Warrior 2, which is a 4-seat, fixed gear land plane, unlike the two previous models they had of the two Arrows, the 3 and the 4, which were both retractables. This aircraft has a Lycoming O320, I believe it's the D3G or D2A versions, 160 horsepower, and a gross weight of about 2,300 pounds. First certified in 1976, this includes the tapered wing. Of course, hot debate over the difference between the Hershey Bar and the tapered wing in stall performance and characteristics versus its speed performance. Even the original designers can't agree. But we digress. Of course, this comes with multiple liveries seen here. And on top of that, you get what is essentially, we'll take a quick look here, just as good as their previous offerings. The texture quality is, as always with the JustFlight aircraft, stunning, even down to the ELT markings there on the fuselage. Well, hello camera, there we go. Nice wheels. Important, nice wheels. Good texture quality and detailing. Tie downs, you get chocks, you get a trolley. We'll take a look at that in a second. But let's first go inside, if I press the correct button. And you'll notice we have the electronic flight bag, which is standard in all of their aircraft. Now I'm going to zoom out for a second because I want you to see this. We have the directional gyro, and we have the heading, or the HSI option for us here. We have things like the radio stack, where we can change between the dual GNS units, the GNS 530, the GPS 100, the, again, dual units. So you've got multiple options here. Typically I'll fly with that setup, or what I would fly with if I had to. Now obviously we have tow bars and we have wheel fairings as options here, so we can actually put on the wheel pants there on the aircraft. Pity you can't just have the two rear ones, not the front one, or the front one, not the two rear ones, like you'll see on some aircraft that operate from grass. But still very nice. And the tow bar too. Very lovely options. We'll turn those all off for now. Now, as always, cabin door is a two-stage process with the Pipers. Latch here, and that will allow you to then open the door and close it. So you've got the two latches here to make sure it is fully sealed. We also have a cargo door at the rear, best done with the EFB. Nice and simple. Now obviously flying with EFB can be annoying, so the intercom switch here totally hides it. Nice and simple. Yeah, thank you, come back. And we're going to be cold dark, of course. Now obviously we don't want those, we just had those in. I've turned off auto fuel selector, that can be sometimes interesting. We can refill our oil, recharge our batteries, nice and easy there. We can have some of their extra issues turned on. But as it stands, multiple options, nice and simple, easy to work with, and it gives you some flight information. So we'll turn this off for now, we don't need it, but we're going to fire the plane up and take a look. Now, obviously, fuel selector needs to be there. Let's turn my avionics off and my alternators on. Cycle the correct lighting options here. Now, the one thing I have noticed is this aircraft does not seem to like some of the controls on, for example, the honeycomb yoke I use. The starter is one of them, you'll see in a moment. Let's cycle that up. Let's put our fuel to a quarter. And make sure this is set. It is. Watch me cycle this with the honeycomb. Nothing happens. So I'll set back to both. Hide the yoke, and I will click start. And we get a nice clean start. So if you run a honeycomb yoke, don't worry, it's JustFlight. It's done this with the other aircraft, so just use the actual starter on the aircraft and you're fine. So let's put the throttle back to neutral. We've got our instruments turned on here. It should be a simple matter of rotating that. But apparently my avionics aren't turned on, even though I did. Obviously fuel pump would be a good idea to normally turn on. Where are you hiding? The avionics bus is turned on. Not what I was expecting. Let's make sure all our circuit breakers are in. Everything is good. Nothing popped there. Nice and simple as we want it to be. Okay, so that is all on. I wish that would turn on. You know what? We'll just skip past that one by fiddling it. There seems to be a bit of a moment there. So we'll go for ready for takeoff, which gives us all those options turned on. I think I may need to actually map the actual avionics button to this one. But we digress. So let's set ourselves properly on our transponder. There we go. We're set to Alt. We are ready to rock. So let's take her out for a run. Now, I've got quite some time, or some time I should say, in the Warrior. Not very much. I did most of my time in 172. In fact, it's been about 10 years since I flew in a Warrior, or a Piper of any kind, actually. But I remember the ground handling was much nicer than the Cessnas. We'll taxi out here at Bella Coola and take her for a spin. Of course, camera viewpoints, we've got the typical oval hood. We've got the lower overhood, and we have down here with the instruments, that's it. Nothing fancy or excessive. We'll take her out now to the runway. And we should be good. Sounds do sound reasonable to me. They sound realistic, and internal sound for wearing headphones is also realistic. So good marks on this one for JustFlight. We're going to taxi out, get ourselves ready for takeoff. Length of run we have here at Bella Coola, we don't need flaps. Nose wheel steering is actually very nice on this. It behaves very well. Whoa, hello. That was an interesting sim bug. Don't want to chalk that down to the aeroplane. That seemed like something to do with the sim. So, coming through 60 knots, approaching 65, 70. We'll just ease the nose up. Nicely done. And we'll pull power back here as we're clearing upwards. We're going to aim for a climb of 70 knots, so we'll just pull the nose up a bit more. Go, let the speed bleed off a little bit. There we go, we'll let it settle down now. About 73 knots is what we want to aim for climb. So feeling good with that. The aircraft is doing exactly what I wanted to do. It's holding pitch there at about 75 now. I've just used the nose up a little bit more. And we'll basically set that based on our power. But overall, once we get up, I'll do a little bit of a lap around. Not flown this yet, so we're going to get our first impressions. My one criticism that I will make is this was £29. But considering how many materials they've reused from the other Pipers they've produced recently, and the fact that the Arrow 4 Turbo was another $30 on top of £30 or dollars on top of the existing 3 and 4, felt excessive. And this is another £30. So you're telling me every Piper you release is going to be £30. I'm starting to feel a little bit reluctant to that, because yes, the flight dynamics are different. To an extent, in many cases, it's a different engine model, because in a lot of cases the exterior is very similar in terms of the actual aerodynamics. There are small differences between the Piper families after a certain point. Obviously you've got the earlier models, then you've got later and newer styles of various things, but most of it is very similar. So in development terms, it's not a full project from start to finish. Just push the nose down here and hold her steady. Give me a little bit of trim there, just to hold it in place. So we're going to just pull the power back, we're going to deploy flaps and see how she wants to behave. So that's me just holding the yoke to one side slightly. Nose isn't dropping as much as I'd expect with the flaps there. It should bring our nose down a little bit. It does. Okay, I'm feeling it on the yoke. That's okay. Pull that up. And put some power in here. And we're going to bring it around and come back towards where the runway is. The speed of the turn does feel good for the Piper. Yeah, this feels like a Warrior. We're looking at 160 horses here, so pretty good actually in terms of performance engine-wise. A good little cruiser for GA stuff. It's a simple GA, not a complex one like the Arrows. So you don't have to deal with things like gear. And the visibility is just as restricted to the side there. It looks good for looking down, but you are eating a lot of wing. You just don't get to see a lot sideways unless you duck your head down and look out the window, which is normally fine. If you're a little bit taller, I'm 5'10", so I tend to notice that myself. So just going to climb a little bit around to the side here. Drop down towards the mountainside, pull our power back, and we should see Bella Coola off our nose there. We do. I'm going to come past this side here. Okay, there's the runway. So we're a little bit high. We'll descend extended downwind here, then we'll take a left and we'll put it down on the runway that we took off on, and we'll see how it behaves on the glide approach. So we're looking at about 22-ish on the manifold there, to keep things nice and easy, nothing too dramatic. Speeds are behaving themselves, it's looking good for what I'd expect, and 90-ish knots right now for a general gentle cruise is reasonable, I'll give it that. We're not trying to push the numbers too hard here. Performance in the sim is great. I'm looking at 40 plus FPS right now. Now this is pre-27th, of course, so this, if you're watching this after the 27th when we get the sim update, this number's going to be much higher, so our reference point will change. But I would say what I'm getting right now, compared to other aircraft in the sim at the current time, is slightly better than average, on the good side. So it will give you that. It performs very well. But I've noticed that Coronado and JustFlight's aircraft are both on the good end of performance, unlike in FSX. Now, of course, this changes when you deal with glass cockpits in the existing sim, but after the 27th, that will be different because they're changing how glass cockpits work. Okay, so we're looking level here. We're going to descend down, so I'll pull power. I'm going to aim to descend at about 100 knots here. Just let our altitude drift down. Balance the airspeed out. I'm going to pull the power out and see how she slows down. That's feeling good. I like that. Okay. That feels good. Not unrealistic, actually. Now, the vast majority of my flying hours were in 152s. I had some limited flight experience in the Piper Warrior. It was a Warrior 2. But that was as kind of being given the stick in that aircraft, or given the yoke, I should say, compared to the Cessna. So much more intimately familiar with that. But the Warrior was a nice aircraft. It flew very, very well. I will say taxiing it was much nicer on grass and asphalt than the Cessna was. And takeoff and landing performance was always very good. So we're going to swing around now and head back to land here at Bella Coola. So we're about 80 knots now, which is fine. We'll come around until we see the river ahead of us, then we'll turn just before it. We should set us up nicely. So I'm pulling the power back, and we'll see how we slow down. Do I have the runway? I do see it in sight. Okay, we're good. Oh yeah, speed's piling off here. We'll put power back on for now. Yeah, this slows down definitely very well. I'm definitely not seeing this as the very slippery aircraft we've seen from other developers. This aircraft definitely feels like it's slowing down naturally, as you'd expect from an airframe like this. Bring her round on heading now. Runway in sight. So I'm going to pull the power back here. Select one notch of flaps. We don't want to come in with full flaps, that will be excessive. We're going to aim for touchdown speed of about 63 knots. So let it settle to about 70 on our approach here. Pull the throttle back to measure that. Okay, we've got obstruction at the start of the runway here, so we have to aim high, so I'm going to pull some power on. Okay, it's going to be a bit of a steeper approach than I'd like, but with a good 100-foot tree there at the front of the runway, it makes things a little bit more interesting. Need to keep aware of that, but we're okay. Speed's coming down, 68. Closing the throttle. Letting the speed drift down here. Slight flare, a little bit high though. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Let's brake gently here. That was gorgeous. That is one of the nicest landing aeroplanes I've flown in the sim yet. I like that a lot. I can see myself flying this. That behaves beautifully. It did exactly what I wanted. When I was coming in, I could feel what it was doing. It responded the way I thought it would, and it was telling me things that it wanted to do. And I could tell where I felt the flare. I pulled the flare in a little bit too early, but I eased it out of it and just held it a little moment with a little bit more power, and it just glided down. I touched down, it was soft, and that was it. Awesome little stop there. Overall, maybe the sounds were a tiny bit quiet, or did I turn them down recently? I might have turned them down recently. That could be it. I think I had a very angry, loud aeroplane last time I was flying, so... Overall, the sounds quality, though, is good. I like how the sounds do sound in this aircraft. They're realistic. The appearance in this thing is realistic. I like how it looks. It's a very pretty aeroplane. And definitely does exactly what I want from it. So, that is nice. Huh. Not bad, JustFlight. Not bad. Like I said, my gripe is that it seems a little upcycled from the... Let's put the parking brake on, shall we? It seems a little upcycled from the other Piper aircraft they've been producing, which makes the £30 price tag seem excessive. That is my one concern. The price tag does feel steep. Not for the aircraft itself, because in isolation it's totally worth it. My issue is with the price tag, because you get the candy, you get the flight bag, you get the tools it provides you, and the systems, and the state saving, the failures. It's almost study level, but not quite, perhaps. But even that pattering sound, that is so Piper. You hear that slapping pattering sound from the propeller at low idle? And the rocking of the fuselage? Yeah, this is worth £30 on its own, but... considering that they're reusing a lot of the textures and materials from their other ones, and a lot of the parts, I would say, in many cases, the dev workload into this individual aircraft, I'd say, is probably slightly lower. Maybe if they released an initial Piper for a certain price, slightly higher price maybe, 40, 50, and the others were add-ons to that in the family line. That, I think, would make more sense. But this is their price model and their business. People are willing to pay it. That's for them to decide. I am just being a little critical with this being the third Piper they've released for the same price. But in general, would I buy it again? Hell yes. This is really nice. So thank you for watching, guys. Bye.